Howdy folks, here's a recipe on how to make Austin's Hell Yeah pickled peppers. The first thing you're going to need to do is to get some peppers, preferably organic. In this instance I picked serrano peppers from my garden. And then you're going to want to wash those peppers. So you're going to need a lot of containers, and if you're coming from your garden you probably want to soak them for an hour and then wash them and soak them again. And before you start chopping, you're going to want to get 2 large pots of water on the stove to boil. Then you can start chopping your peppers, and there's a lot of different ways to do this. One warning, you shall use rubber gloves when you're chopping peppers. The first time I tried doing this, I found out very quickly that that those pepper juices will get, and the oils will get into your skin, and you won't be able to sleep at night because your hands will feel like they're on fire. So definitely you're going to need to get some good rubber gloves, and you should also get some good help. You're going to have a lot of peppers to chop here. There's really no method to how you chop these peppers. Typically I chop them up into small slices, and because it's easier to pack them into the cans, into the jars later. However, if you want, you can just push them in whole into the jars. However, you should still chop off the ends so that the pickling juices can get inside the peppers. So it'll still take some time. It's up to you, and you can just kind of do it different ways depending how many peppers you have and the size of your jars. Once your 2 pots of water are boiling, start putting in those jars into the boiling water, and also put the lids and the lid tops in with those jars. Now you can reuse the jars, but every time and every year that you pickle and use these jars, buy brand new lids. Just get brand new lids for the jars. So you're going to boil those jars and those lids for at least 10 minutes. Now while the jars are boiling, and possibly after you've already boiled one set of jars, you can start making your pickling sauce, which the general recipe on this is 5 cups of vinegar, 1 cup of water, 4 tablespoons of canning or pickling salt, and you can use, I always use kosher salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 cloves of garlic, and I actually sometimes add 4 cloves of garlic, plenty of garlic. But if you're going to do a lot of canning, I usually double that, and frankly lately I've started to triple that just so I have plenty of pickling juice, so I don't have to remake it if I have more peppers and more jars than I thought I have. So these days I've even been tripling it based on the amount of peppers that are shown in this video. And I just want to point out something here. As you can see, this process makes a lot of mess, and sometimes the pickling juice, which has sugar in it, can spill over and really kind of create a mess on your countertop. And there's a lot of boiling, scalding water involved here, so there's really a warning. Preferably do not do this around young children, and be careful yourself. And so, like the jars, the pickling jars, you're also going to boil the pickling juice or sauce, whatever you want to call it, for 10 minutes. After the jars have boiled for at least 10 minutes, your new best friend is going to be a jar grabber. Typically you can get something like this at any grocery store, but probably Amazon is going to have a very basic one. And obviously you use this thing to get these scalding hot jars out of the boiling water. And there's a lot of different ways to do this, but then it begs the question, how do you get those metal jar tops and lids out of the boiling water? And what I've been doing is I just have a magnet that I used to use on child-proof drawers and so on and so forth. I just used a magnet and then grabbed it with the jar grabber and put it down in there and then fished them out of the pot. Obviously there may be different ways of doing that, like tongs or something to that effect, but that's what I've been doing. And once your jars are ready, start filling them up. And probably best to try to tamp them down tightly, because what will happen is after you pour the hot pickling juice into these jars and then boil them, the peppers tend to lose volume. They kind of fill back in later, but get it as tightly packed as you can. You don't have to force it, but you want them pretty full to the brim. Once your full pickling jars are ready, you want to transfer them over to the area close to the boiling pickling juice. Then after fishing out the garlic, preferably with a strained spoon or something to that effect, you can start filling up the pickling jars. And typically what I use is a large ladle, and you're going to make a mess. Don't worry about that. So you want to have an area where you don't mind making a mess. But one reason I like doing it this way is because it also avoids the possibility of spilling a lot of that pickling juice on you, because it's boiling hot. It's very dangerous. Also, just as a side note, save those garlic pieces, because those are pretty tasty and go well with a lot of things. So it's, to me, kind of a delicacy. So if you like those, try one of those. Once you have filled the jars with the pickling juice, start putting on those lids. And you're probably going to need a rag, because those jars are going to be pretty hot. So, and as you're putting on the lids, it's going to be full right to the brim, but look at it at the very top before you put on the lid to make sure that there's no peppers that are hanging over the sides of the rim. Otherwise, what can happen is it won't be a perfect seal, and they can spoil, and or it just won't seal properly. So double check that and get those ready. And once the lids are on there, start putting them in one by one into the boiling water with a jar grabber, and boil them for at least 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, use your jar grabber and take out the pickled peppers and put them to the side to cool. And so at this point, you're essentially done. Usually what I'll do is I'll let them cool off when they're super hot, and then I will clean them off with a rag and transfer them to another area of the house that's a little more cool. And what will happen is, over the next few hours, if not less, you'll start to hear those can tops start to pop, because they'll seal. That's one thing you want to watch for. Make sure that all of the tops of the pickled pepper metal can tops pop down to indicate that they've sealed properly. And your pickled peppers will be ready within as short as 2 weeks. I typically give it about a month, and they go with just about anything. Go great on sandwiches and you name it. One of the things I really think that these kind of pickled peppers go with is just a nice set of fried eggs. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Enjoy, and like, subscribe, and if you have any comments or questions, make those below. I'll try to respond, but also the recipe for this I'm also going to put in the description. Enjoy.